Hey everybody, it's Brother Jerry. I pray that God is blessing you and using your God-given talents today. I wanted to give you a brief message today that I'm calling, What is the Church? Why don't you think for a second about church today? Usually what is the thing that you normally hear if you was to come to somebody that you knew and they attended church today on a Sunday or whatever day that you attend church? What's a question that you usually hear asked? That's right, they'll say, "Hey, how was church?" Now think about the first century church for a second. If you was to go back and be a member in the first century Christianity, do you think it would be foreign to them if you went up and asked them, "Hey buddy, how was church?" They'd probably give you a strange look. But see, today, church is a building that we go to. It's either a large building or maybe a smaller building. And when someone's asking you, "How was church?" you're thinking about, well, I guess I have to rate the pastor and the pastor's message and whether I like the building or not, or the layout of the building, or the child care, or the food, or the coffee that they serve. You see, today, church is about a certain length of a message given by a pastor, some music accompaniment at the beginning, maybe some visitation for a little bit afterwards, and then you go home and say, "See you next week." That's really foreign thinking to the first century church. If you read the book of Acts, you'll see what I'm talking about. See, to them, church was not a building, but rather, they were the church. Christ commissioned people to go out, meet together, love one another, comfort one another, pray together, listen to the apostles' teaching, and they would go about teaching others. But see, today, we're content by listening to a message, listening to some music, and then we go home and don't think about it until next week. I've also heard people say, it would be so amazing to go back to that first century church. I would just love to be part of that. Think about it for a second. Would you really? See, if you read throughout the book of Acts, you will see that Christians of the day were in constant danger, under persecution. They were stoned, beaten, beheaded, crucified. We don't see much of that today, at least not in this country. Some other foreign countries, you see that right now, but not so much here. So now I'm not saying that we shouldn't go to a church building and we shouldn't meet. But honestly, guys, church is more than just meeting once a week. This is God's people coming together. Let's go to Acts chapter 2, verse 42 for a second. And this is what they said. "And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayers." So you see, there's a key word right there. They devoted themselves. So I want us to think about that today, guys. Are we devoted? How devoted are we to hearing the apostles' teaching or your pastor's teaching? Would you consider that going to church, a church building once a week, is devotion? Some people might say it is. But I want us to think about that for a second. Christianity in this country is really not very much like the first century church. If these people were devoted, and they said that they were not only devoted to the apostles' teaching, but to fellowship, the breaking of bread, and prayers. So do you see, guys, it was more than meeting once a week in a building, and then you say, "Hey, buddy, see you next week." So if you're not part of a group, or you're not because I know a lot of churches have groups, which is great. It's an opportunity for us to meet together more often. We should become closer, and we should become more devoted to fellowship to one another, because that is how the church is strengthened, when we devote ourselves to the scriptures, to fellowship, having meals with one another, praying together. So, you see, we are the salt and the light of the world. How is the world or people in the world going to see us if we just hide in a building? Well, no, we're not hiding in a building. We go to work and we go to the grocery store. But you see, if church is only once a week at a building and then we leave and we live our lives normally, then nobody in the world who's not saved is going to see the church as salt and light. See, wherever you are, God put you there for a reason. Wherever you're working, if you're in a cubicle, if you're in a mechanic shop, if you're a teacher, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're working in the aircraft industry, if you're working in a factory, if you're working in a farm, there's going to be people around you for the most part. God put you there for a reason. You're to be salt and light. Because Jesus said we don't put a light underneath a bushel and we don't hide it. Therefore, we need to be in the world but not of the world, and we need to be preaching the gospel to those who do not know Christ. So guys, I hope that this gives you a little bit of taste of what the church is actually, and it's not really a building, but we as Christians are the church, and we are to be the church in the world, impacting the world by the things that we do, the way that we live our lives, the way we conduct ourselves, and then the outside world's going to see, hey, there is something different about this person. This person is not the same as everybody else, and they want to investigate and find out what that is. So are you being salt and light? My prayer is, guys, that we do not just quote unquote attend church once a week, but that we are the church showing Christ to the world. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope that this message blessed you. If you have any questions or comments, please post them on my page. Next time, I'm going to talk about missions. Grace and peace to you.